Hello and welcome. We have decided to create a cloud storage using AWS, Amazon Web Services. And so we're going to break down the bucket that I've created today using AWS. Um, to start, uh, we'll talk about the name of it, which is AD350-1, following proper naming conventions. Not very creative there. It was the first one, so I thought I'd go with that. At least I can keep it in chronological order. In the future, after the one, I might decide to make it a little bit more descriptive, though. Um, I already created an account and everything, so I'm not going to show you all of that. Um, the AWS region by default is East, looks like Ohio. Um, and let's get into a little bit more. There's a couple cat pictures in here. Um, I want to let's talk about versioning first. In the beginning, I didn't enable versioning, um, though later on I decided, what the heck, I'm going to do it anyway. Um, so this project does have versioning, just in case we delete a file and want to get it back or something like that. We now have that option. Um, I don't think it's done by default, but it encourages you to do it, which is nice. I noticed there were a lot of um, instances where it would encourage you or recommend certain things, and I appreciate that uh, the UI is set up that way. It really feels like it has your back. Next, let's talk a little bit about the permissions. So by default, the permissions for the bucket were blocking to block all access, which is nice. A lot of companies use AWS, so I imagine by default they don't want their stuff out there in the public. Nor does really anybody. And it was actually not too difficult, but you do have to definitely consciously want to make something public, which is nice. So to do that, I just had to hit edit here. Initially, they were all checked, block all public access. I unchecked them all and read through the different descriptions here. It's nice that you can decide to block new access to new things, so people who already had access would still have it. Um, I thought that was a cool feature to have. And you can really get in depth as well. I looked up a little bit online, some solutions there. I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to go or do CORS configuration or anything. That just had it in the settings, which was nice. Once I made it remove the block all access, I had to go to uh, the what they call the access control list, and then edit that. So by default, you have everything. And then you can make it so only AWS account users have it or what have you. I wanted everybody to see it. It's just a couple pictures of cats. I didn't check list though, um, so that's what that is. I need to learn a little bit more about that. Um, so we've kind of covered the versioning, if that's enabled, and the permission. Next, let's talk a little bit about, it was optional, but the life cycle. Um, so this actually does have a life cycle. Um, Let me get to it here. Here we go. Um, and where is it at here? I called it bucket cleaning. So let's talk a little bit about the life cycle rules here. Data's with the cost of data going up these days, or cloud storage, that is. um, uh, it's set that on day 100, no uh, non-current versions are retained. Essentially, no versions are retained. So after 100 days, it, it deletes everything. I didn't set up tags or anything like that. And if you actually go to the edit here, I selected apply to all buckets in the object, which normally would be crazy. If you were doing like an app or something like that. Um, I already checked that, so it's making me do it again, I guess. But yeah, permanently delete all non-current versions, as opposed to some of the other options, which can incur costs. The idea here is that you try to keep it as cost effective as possible. But it's done by days, not by hours or anything like that. And then you can retain some of the newer versions if you want. Uh, I didn't do that though. Um, the other thing I want to talk about, oop, right here, is the actual public access. So once you do that, I guess you still have to give access to individual objects. So even though, you went through the process of, allowing public access and then, setting it so that, people with that access can uh, read the data that's there, you then have to like approve which objects in the bucket they can read. So for example, with Cool Cat here, um, if you actually click on the object URL, it's a picture of a cool cat, and you can see that this is just anybody in a private browser, for example, so that it doesn't show that I'm in like my AWS account or whatever. Like I could still go to that um, because I did this. I checked it, and then under Actions, I did make it public using ACL. But with the Norwegian forest cat, I did not do that. So if we try to use the URL that it's at, it gives us this error. Um, and I hope that my screen record is catching all of that. So one thing we can do, like was shown in the example, is we can do share with a pre-designed URL, which is a nice feature. If you want to show a prototype, and it's by minutes or hours, which is cool. Um, so now we have the pre-designed URL, and uh, it's a really pretty Norwegian forest cat there. So that's one way of doing it. It's a crazy long URL, and it's going to go away after a little bit. And just to show you, the actual object URL remains inaccessible until we go to Object Actions, make public using ACL. And you can check and do this with multiple objects, I imagine. I just did it one by one so you can see the example. Make public. Um, there we go. And then just close out of that. And then if you try now, boom, now anybody can see it. So they make you go through hoops. Thank goodness. I'm sure that some people out there still find ways to make things publicly accessible, and it shouldn't be, haha. But yeah, it's pretty well laid out. Good times. Hope you enjoyed. And yeah, we ended up actually doing both of the optional things, which were to enable versioning as well as a lifecycle configuration. Thanks for watching.